they told me that I was a 1 in 1,000 shot. They said that I wasn't going to see my 30th birthday. And being a 22, 23-year-old, you don't want to hear that. Like they didn't have to tell me all that. You know what I mean? I knew my odds weren't good, but my mentality didn't waver. And Isabel, your mentality matters so much. I know that I'm kind of taking a step back from the story here, but I want to put an emphasis on that, is that your mind controls everything. And people say that a lot, and it sounds cliche, but it's so true. I'm living, breathing proof. My mentality didn't waver. I knew that I was going to get out of this. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I knew that I was going to win.
Hey guys, welcome back to Bold. My name's Isabel. In this episode, we have Naadir Mehta, a UST alumnus and a 2-time cancer survivor. In this episode, we talk about the ups and downs of chemotherapy and how important mentality is. Get ready, because this one is a real tearjerker. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Max Studio UST to stay in the loop and get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek at everything that we're working on. Now, let's jump into this episode of Bold with Naadir. Hey Naadir, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thanks so much for being here.
Of course.
Okay, tell us your story, please.
So it's a bit of a doozy. I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon and rectal cancer in 2020 when I was 22. I'm 24 now. I'm healthy now against all odds, but it was not an easy road to get here. It all started at the beginning of the pandemic. I was having...
No way!
Yeah, so the timing was not very good.
Horrible.
Yeah. And ironically, it's just when I started taking my health seriously.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it was just like, bad timing. There's never really good timing for something like that.
Of course. And so you were 22 years old. Mm-hmm. How, what was going on in that stage of your life?
I was in school. I was actually at St. Thomas, and I was trying to finish up my undergrad degree in marketing. Just living life like any other college student. Not really thinking about anything like this, some life-altering event. You never really think that it's going to happen to you until it does, especially being so young at such a late stage. I was having really bad abdominal pain for months, and I didn't do anything about it until my sister finally pushed me to go see a doctor. And it gets kind of messed up over here, and you'll learn why. But I go see the doctor, and he orders a CT scan. So we get the CT scan done, and they find a mass in my colon. So he says, we're going to do a colonoscopy. So we go ahead and do the colonoscopy, and this was on a Monday. The colonoscopy gets done, and they admit me to the hospital until Thursday for emergency surgery to remove my colon. Those 4 days, Isabel, were the worst pain that I've ever experienced in my life. I pray to God that no one else experiences that, because I've never been shot before, but I would imagine it's being shot and stabbed, and you can't pull the bullet or the knife out, and it's just constantly going deeper into you.
And they don't give you medicine or anything to help out with it? I
mean, they do, but when you're going through pain like that, it can only dull it a little bit. It can't really,
Ugh.
And they were giving me hard stuff like hydromorphine, dialolute, all that stuff, and it didn't really help. And my surgery was scheduled for 10:30 a.m. on that Thursday, and I remember looking at the clock, and I was waiting in this room, and I'm not normally like this, but 10:30 came and went, and I was just yelling at the top of my lungs, please help me, please come, because the prep team didn't come in. And 10:45 rolled around, and they finally came in, and I remember seeing them, looking at them like angels, coming to save me. So this surgery was supposed to take 10 hours. It ended up taking 1.5 hours.
What?
Yeah. And my parents are waiting in the lobby, when all of this is happening. And when the surgeon comes out so quickly, they immediately think something is wrong. The surgeon at this point tells them, no, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. I got his colon removed. He's going to be healthy. But we have to do a biopsy just as a formality. So my parents are like, okay, everything's fine, because the surgeon told us that, right?
Yeah.
And in hindsight, he shouldn't have done that until he got the test back. So fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm still healing from this surgery because it was an open surgery. So they had to cut my abdomen open from here to there. And
So you're in the hospital for
I was
waiting.
I was in the hospital for about 4 or 5 days. I got discharged.
Okay.
And then a week later, I came back to get the results. So I'm sitting right here. The surgeon's sitting directly across from me, and my parents are behind me.
Okay.
And with no emotion whatsoever, no, I'm sorry, no, nothing. He says, you have stage 4 colorectal cancer. Would you like to begin chemotherapy here? And this was at Methodist in Sugar Land. My mom immediately broke down crying. I didn't really have an expression. I was kind of stoic. My father was the same way, stoic, I guess kind of in shock.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I don't want to begin chemotherapy here. Thank you.
Why?
Because I needed to go to MD Anderson. I knew that this was a very, very serious thing. Any type of cancer is serious, but when you go to stage 4, most people think that, that's all she wrote, that's the death sentence. I didn't think like that. I knew what I had to do. I knew that it was going to be very rough, but I knew I was going to get out of it. And my father did too. And my mom did too, but she's just the emotional one out of us. So we ended up fighting with Methodist to get my medical records. And that took 3 or 4 weeks, which was very frustrating because time is of the essence.
Of course.
So things like this. So we finally get my records. My father knows someone on the board of directors over there, so we were able to fast track me getting put in front of a doctor. I get put in front of a doctor. He says, okay, look, we're going to begin you on a 4 chemo drug regimen for 6 months. And to his credit, he didn't BS me about anything. He told me what I was to expect. Terrible side effects. That's why my skin is kind of like this right now. It's still healing because I'm 4 months out from my last dose by God's grace, and my body's still healing. Take up to 2 years for that to happen. But I went ahead and I did those 6 months. It was 1 week on, 1 week off, 52 hours of chemotherapy every other week with no breaks. It was very difficult. I do 8 hours of chemo in the hospital, and then I would do the rest at home with a mobile pump. They still have my port right here. I get that out after 2 years of remission. Just because I'm a late stage patient, they want to make sure that everything is copacetic. After I finish the chemotherapy, they give me a cytoreductive surgery. And what that is it's a surgery to basically go inside me again and remove any remaining cancer cells that are left after the chemo, because sometimes chemo can't zap it all. That was the most difficult thing that I've ever experienced. It was worse than the first surgery, and I'll tell you why. And this is such a big reason of why I am a huge believer in God. I was already religious before, but even now more so. So the morning of the surgery, it's like 5:36 in the morning. My mother and I are in the elevator. My father can't make it because of COVID restrictions, right? My mother could barely make it in.
This was all during the pandemic.
Yeah. It was terrible. So we're in the elevator, and then there's this mother and her daughter in the elevator across from us. And I look at the daughter, and the daughter looks at me, and we kind of give each other this nod of like, yes, I know what you're going through, but you're going to be okay. Like a thing of solitude. So we both go in. We check in for our respective surgeries, and my mother and this girl's mother are basically the only 2 people in the lobby. And the messed up part is MD Anderson would let them wait in the lobby, but then I had to stay in the hospital for about a week after, at least, to recover from the surgery. And they weren't going to let my mom stay in that hospital with me. So it was just going to be me.
Oh, no.
And Isabel, I know I could do it even if my mother wasn't there, but like I'm just so happy that she was there because she is my best friend and she pushed me forward in times where I didn't think I would be able to do it. So I'm in the surgery, and while the surgery is happening, my mom is a very reserved person. She's not so much like me. She doesn't like talking to people that much. But she told me, she said, Naadir, something made me speak up and talk and strike conversation with this person because she felt that she had to.
Yeah, because they're both waiting there, just sitting there.
Yeah. And she starts talking to this person, and they're sharing their respective stories, our stories, and she complains to this other mom that, hey, this is BS. They're not letting me stay here with my son. I know he needs me. I need him. Like I need to be here for him. And this lady, bless her heart, I swear I think she was sent down by someone or something. There was a reason why she was there, because she slips my mom a note with a phone number on it. And she says, listen, don't tell anyone about this. Call this number. Tell them that you spoke to me, and they're going to let you stay in this hospital. But you can't leave. You can't even go out to get food delivered. If you step 1 foot outside of that door, you can't come back in. So everything that you have right now, you're going to have to stay here with No clothes, no toothbrush, no nothing. And my mom said, I don't care, like, give me the phone number. Thank you so much. So she called them. So I spent a couple of hours in the ICU because that's standard, right? And they wheeled me into my hospital room. And I remember seeing my mother sitting there with the biggest smile on her face. And I just burst into tears. Like, they weren't sad tears. They were obviously happy, right? And I was drugged up too. So everything was like just going crazy. And I remember the recovery was very difficult. And I remember just saying to my mom as much as I could that I was so grateful and happy that she was with me. And after I fully recover, I'm in remission, like I said, for 7 to 8 months. And in October of 2021, I got a recurrence. And my doctors told me that due to the nature of my disease and because it was such a late stage, that I would most likely have one recurrence. To their credit, they never lied to me. They never set my expectations the wrong way, and I will always be grateful for them to that. But my mentality didn't waver. And Isabel, your mentality matters so much. I know that I'm kind of taking a step back from the story here, but I want to put an emphasis on that, is that your mind controls everything. And people say that a lot, and it sounds cliche, but it's so true. I'm living, breathing proof. My mentality didn't waver. I knew that I was going to get out of this. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I knew that I was going to win. And I accepted the chemotherapy. I don't know if that makes sense, but like you can't resist something. You can't be like, oh, the world is falling down. Oh, I'm doomed. Because if you do that, then you really are doomed. But if you believe, and if you truly believe in your heart that, yes, I'm going to be okay. Yes, I can do this no matter what it takes, then you will be okay. I truly believe that. My mentality didn't waver. I had bad days just like everybody else, but I picked myself back up after a couple of minutes of an emotional outburst, and I just reset and grounded myself again.
Were you always like this? Did you always have this mentality, or did it like start because of the cancer?
That's a great question. I think that I did always have it, but I didn't know that. Because I think that when you're thrown into situations of severe adversity, you find out if you're going to fold or if you're going to rise to the occasion. If you asked me 3 or 4 years ago before all this, would I be able to do this or would I rise to the occasion? I can honestly say I don't know what I would tell you because I haven't been in that experience yet and I wasn't able to figure out what I was truly made of. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it does. And when I was thrown into that situation, I realized, my true strength and I realized what type of person I was. And I was extremely happy for that. And it sounds weird, but I'm very, very happy that I was diagnosed with this cancer because I wouldn't be able to figure out the type of man that I am today without this. It's a shame that it took something so severe for me to realize these qualities of myself, but everyone goes through things in their life, and this was just something that I had to go through. I've come out a stronger, better person because of it, and I'll be eternally grateful for that. So we go through this recurrence. I have to do 6 months again of the same drug regimen. And when I had the recurrence, I was a little messed up about it mentally. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a bit of a blow.
Yeah, because so were you like cleared from the first part?
I was cleared. They told me they call it NED, and what NED is no evidence of disease.
Okay.
They'll never tell you that you're cancer free just because of liability reasons and everything. But I was NED for 7 to 8 months. I was living life. I was very, very happy. And then I had to get these scans, CT scans every 3 to 4 months, just to make sure that, nothing comes back. So I got my CT scan, and it was also messed up because my doctors couldn't agree whether this was cancer or not. I had my surgeon telling me that, no, I don't think this is cancer. I think this is scar tissue. You're fine. You don't have to go back on treatment. And then I had my actual oncologist, the guy who prescribes my chemo and everything, telling me, no, he's lying. Not lying, but you know what I mean? Like, he's wrong. I think this is cancer. And unfortunately, my oncologist was correct. So, my parents and everything were very upset, naturally. I was just kind of like, what the hell? I did so much. I worked so hard to get here, and I felt like I was taking a step back. But I wasn't really, and I only figured that out later. So I ended up doing 6 more months of chemotherapy. I did that with a smile on my face. So I've done 29 sessions now. And I hope to God that I don't have to do 30. I don't think I'll have to. But I was cleared, and I rang the bell. on April 22nd, 2022, the second and last time, because now my doctors are telling me that, I'm healthy, I can plan for the future, and everything's great. I just have to be, careful. I don't drink or anything. I drank before this, not excessively, but I just don't want to give this any chance to come back. I'm very careful about what I eat. I think everyone should be. But my point is that it's extremely important to keep the faith in whatever you do. Mine is obviously a very extreme example. Even with my doctors telling me that I was a 1 in 1,000 shot and that I wasn't going to see the age of 30, I didn't falter. In fact, it motivated me to prove them wrong. And now they've asked me to use my data to help other people in similar situations. And of course I said yes, So that was, a big blessing. The clarity that I have in my life now is like nothing that I can describe. And I'm trying to put it into words, but even now it's difficult for me to do that. I'm the happiest that I've ever been. Before cancer, I was a completely different person, like I was telling you before. The way that I would interact with people would be negative. I wouldn't harm them physically, but I would leave them in a worse place than when I found them. And that's terrible. That's not the way that you should live life. I would always be looking for the next party. I would be looking for the next fun thing to do. I'd be living a very short-sighted life, and just a very flawed life, in my opinion. And now I realize that life, it's not about material things. It's not about the parties. It's about the people that you meet. It's about the bonds that you form, the relationships that you have with people, and the impact that you leave. And now I've got more clarity than ever, and I know that's why I'm here. I've been given a second, third chance at life, and I don't intend to squander it. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to leave this world a better place than when I was born into it. I promise you that.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And do you know how you're going to do that yet?
Yeah, so I'm in the beginning stages of starting a foundation for pediatric cancer patients. We're looking to partner with MD Anderson, the first one, because I've got the most relationships there with the patients and the people, the doctors, nurses over there, most connections over there. So we're going to work to partner with them first, then hopefully go to Nexus Children's, Memorial Hermann, all the big ones. And I'm not naive. I know in the beginning we're not going to be able to raise millions of dollars for research, but as a former patient myself, that sounds great to say. But as a former patient myself, I know what it takes to make the treatment a little bit comfier for you in terms of blankets, pillows, snacks, because hospital food sucks, Apple TVs, Nintendo Switches for kids and things like that. And as we grow, we'll be able to do bigger and better things. We're just waiting on the state of Texas to get our tax exemption. So Texas, please hurry up. I think that stuff like that we can definitely take care of, and that's how I intend to do it. It's a big reason of why I came on this show today, too. I hope that by sharing my story, I can impact other people, and I can show them that no matter how bad your situation is, even if it's quite literally life and death.
What are some tangible tips that people can do to get that mindset? Because of course it's easier said than done.
Right.
But on a bad day, what do you do? What are some tips?
Okay. So I obviously specifically have the best motivation, right? And I recognize that not most people won't get that motivation. So what I tell people is throw yourself into the most uncomfortable situation that you can think of, right? Whether it's, talking to that girl or guy that you're nervous about talking to, whether it's about, going into the gym by yourself because you're nervous about what people will think, or, anything like that. If you constantly throw yourself outside of the box and you get yourself out of your comfort zone and you do that repetitively and consistently is key. You will train your mind without even realizing it to adapt to these uncomfortable situations. And, you see these calluses on my hand, like I said, it just calluses your mind and it hardens your mind. And it says to yourself that, hey, look, I'm in an uncomfortable situation right now, but this is not something that's new to me. I've done this time and time again. I can conquer this, right? And that is the best way that I can put it into words besides getting something terrible like cancer and it's just, being thrown into the deep end.
Thanks so much for sharing your story.
Of course.
I'm in shock right now. It's such a good story.
Thank you. I'm writing a book too.
Oh.
But the book, I can't give any previews yet. It's got no name yet.
In the process.
In the process, it's going to have everything in it. And if you guys want to read it, I'll be sure to give you guys copies when it's ready.
Of course. I would love to read it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
Stay bold, my friends. Thanks so much for watching.